Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of This or That. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty commonly discussed topic, chasing numbers versus chasing stability. So let's get into it here. I got Kyle with me. Really, let's understand what the debate is, right? So start out with that. What are we talking about? So a lot of people, believe that you got to chase those very specific parameters, right? Everything's got to be right there where this guy or this guy is doing it, and that's what I'm going to go for, and nothing else is acceptable, which is fine. Other people just kind of strive for that stability. And really, what are the pros and cons of this? So, Kyle, I want to open up with you. Let's start with chasing numbers. What's your take?
I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
They are just suggestions for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to give you a parameter number as a range, not a set number for a reason. Because every tank's going to be a little bit different on what works best, what does not work. There's just a range for a reason. I don't think
Yeah. And I think a lot of times, like if we see, if you're on, say, some of the forums or you're online watching videos, and you see people talking about their parameters and they're like, oh, my alkalinity is 10. Well, that's probably where they try to keep their alkalinity. I'm sure it wavers. It kind of does this a little bit. Doesn't mean that they keep it at 10, and if it goes to 10.2, that the world ends, or it goes to 9.1, everything falls apart. It's not the case usually, right?
Usually.
Now, I think it depends on the hobbyist you are, right? Because there are some people out there that actually enjoy that number chasing. It's like a strive for perfection.
I think being a little scientist.
Yeah, exactly, right? Or it just, you want to be the best, you want to know exactly what to do, and you like the additives and the tinkering and all that, and I think that's great. If that's the kind of hobbyist you are, there's nothing at all wrong with it. But I think the average hobbyist, especially a new hobbyist, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
You're going to go crazy.
You're just going to go crazy trying to get all those parameters exactly where you want it, because you're probably never going to get there, at least not for a while, until your new tank has aged a little bit, become a little more mature, cycled through. So, it's just going to be impossible. And so all you're going to do is really, in my opinion,
you're going to be bouncing up and down.
Yeah, everything's going to go all over the place. You're going to stress everything out. You're doing the opposite of what you really should be doing, which is focusing on creating a stable ecosystem at first.
Yeah, I think stability is going to be the most important part. Not too stable. You don't want to pinpoint and be at exactly like 10.0 DKH all the time,
right?
Or exactly at 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 24/7 for your corals. But I think having an ideal range where you keep it at, totally fine.
Yeah, and not all reef systems are going to be the same either, right? Like what may work for a friend of yours, or what may work for the big fish store that you buy your coral from, isn't necessarily going to work for your tank, or there may be a good reason why you can't keep this parameter in that range, and that's fine, right? As long as you're having success and everything's going well. I think, for a new hobbyist, the goal really should be strive for stability, right? Even if your pH, say, averages at 7.8, right? Let's just say that's where it hits and it stays there. Well, fine. You've got it stable now. Focus on trying to get it to stay there and what you could do for your system to stabilize it. And once you've stabilized it, even if it's not necessarily where you want it, then start working on how to raise it.
Yeah.
Right? And work on things to do to raise it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to get to that specific point, but you've got a stable quality ecosystem, and now you can start tinkering with it and changing it.
Yeah. And I also think it's important, if you are testing, try to test at the same time every day, because your pH number is going to be different at 7 a.m. versus noon when your lights are full blast. So,
and check your test. Make sure you've got good test kits. I like to have different kinds. I like to have titration type test kits, as well as the Hannah checkers or something. So just to test sort of my sanity on it. Are these getting close?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then go to double over, have your test kit at home, take your water sample to the local fish store, have them test it too, just to make sure that you've got an idea of what that range is that you're sitting at.
Yeah. And I think with that, there's just problems with chasing numbers that end up happening due to just human error and inaccuracies with our test kits. If you're chasing numbers and your test kit reagent is 3 months expired, you're chasing a false number.
Right.
So you're doing more harm than good by chasing a number in that case.
For sure. So. Now, is there ever a time, or can you ever think of a time in our aquariums where we need to chase a number? It's important. right now this number needs to be chased down?
So I think the most important indicator, and it may not necessarily be showing up on the test kit, it may be on how your tank looks or how the corals look. So if you've ever overdosed alkalinity by accident, or you had a dosing pump just stick on and just dump your whole gallon of alkalinity
There you go.
in the tank, it's probably gonna look really cloudy. That's the case where you should probably chase the number and probably do something drastically fast.
Yep.
And change it. But if your corals are looking fine, water's crystal clear, I don't think there's a need to make any drastic changes right away. It's more so like, okay, maybe my alkalinity is a little bit low. I should probably bump up my dosing on a daily basis.
That's right. Yeah, it's the only time I think, in my opinion, really anybody needs to. And again, this is not saying that folks out there that like chasing those numbers that there's a problem. It's fine if that's how you want to roll, man. As long as you're having fun. But just for the average hobbyist and the new, especially like I said, the new hobbyists that aren't as familiar with everything, don't get too caught up in the numbers. Achieve stability, but for me, it's if something goes wrong, or like you said, if there's an emergency, and I'm like, oh, my pH is 6. That's a problem, right? Or
an issue.
Yeah, my salinity is at 1.5. That's a problem, right? Or whatever. So, which hopefully it never gets there. But it obviously right then you have to intervene and chase some kind of a number. So there are those acceptable times, but throughout just the normal course of a week or month or day, there's really no reason to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just more important. Just keep an eye on the trends, in my experience.
Yeah. So best practices for stability. So maintaining stability. And I think, if you scour the internet right now, you scour the talks, I think most people are finally starting to come around to the whole stability is better than anything. Because you can watch it. There are people with completely different views on things. I watched one the other day, a guy had a big SPS farm and he keeps his DKH at like 8. That's fine. Yeah. It works great. He's growing a lot of stuff. So it doesn't have to be 10 or 12. But I think a lot of people are coming around to the stability over the chasing numbers thing. But what do you think best practices for stability?
Things that come to mind with stability, make your maintenance routine, your aquarium routine regular. So do your water changes once a week if that's what you want to do. That's what works for your schedule. Do the same amount every week. Use the same salts. Use the same dosing additives that you're using from batch to batch. So if you're dosing 2-part, don't be switching from like ESV to BRS, then to Tropic Marin each time you run out. Just try sticking with the same kind every single time you can. Unless for some reason there's like a supply chain issue or something like is off the market now. Obviously you have to make a change, but try sticking with the same products and same routine. Right.
And know what you're putting in, right? So if you're using a salt mix that is formulated for a DKH of 7.8 or something, and you want your DKH to be a 9, well, you probably should switch salt mixes.
Yep.
Right. So
makes your life easier that way.
Yeah, for sure. So, know what you're putting in, maybe start some of the source, but yeah, don't switch things around too much. Don't change things that you're adding or, anything like that too frequently. Another thing that's important is, go off trends in your testing. So when you're doing your water tests and you see that, oh, today my, this parameter is here, or, say nitrates were, 9 yesterday and today they're 6, right? They're going down.
Don't freak out too much.
Yeah. Wait, tomorrow they may be 11, right? So, follow a trend, so over the course of time, see what your tests are doing. If you constantly see that things are dropping, on average over a period of time, days, weeks, whatever it is, then maybe it's time to adjust. But don't start making adjustments and adding things over one test result.
Yeah.
Bad idea. You're just going to drive yourself nuts, personally.
I think aside from driving yourself nuts, if you're chasing a specific number and keeping everything too stable, the second something drops from your goal target, just makes that event much more stressful. I've personally found in my tanks where I let the temperature vary a couple degrees throughout the day, where my temperature set range on my apex is from 78 to 80. The corals are much more resilient than someone that's pegged right at 79 with a 0.1 degree tolerance, turning on their heater on and off. So when that power outage hits, my temperature drops down to 75, corals are a lot more ready for a change in the temperature versus someone that's pegged at a specific number.
Yeah, because they'll adapt to that to an extent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I also think with going back to a little bit on the maintenance, anything that you can automate that will help you do it and make sure that you do it. So I'm thinking just like dosers. So if you're dosing for your tank, your SPS corals, do it throughout the day. Be consistent with that dosing. Don't dose once per day, wait for the DKH to drop to 6 before you dose back up to 8.
Sure.
Should be dosing a couple times throughout the day to maintain it as stable as you can.
Sure. Again, unless you're one of these people that want that, and most of the time that's going to be the experienced reefer that's been doing it for a long time and, knows exactly how much caulk to add every day to keep everything, whatever it is. So, but yeah, that's a great point too, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, so in general, like if we just wrap this up in this discussion, because I think it's a pretty simple discussion. I think we've all started to lean one way on this. Ideal parameters are great. Like having that set that your goal is here is great, but it's just a guideline, right? It shouldn't become an obsession. If it does, unless again, that's fun for you. It's not for me. So try to get in that range. And if you're not, then try to figure out how to slowly get your tank where you want it. Don't drive yourself crazy trying to get to that perfect number and that perfect system. At the end of the day, stability in your aquarium is going to provide you with long-term success in the hobby. Your tank is going to thank you for it. The creatures in your tank are going to thank you for it. And you'll just have a lot more success and a lot better time, rather than trying to chase that number and potentially providing more instability to a system that doesn't need it.
Yeah. And I think your corals are going to be the best indicator of whether you're doing things right or not, rather than the test kit. There might be some data that says things shouldn't be working, but your corals are going to tell you with their color, their growth, and just overall health if things are going right versus wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Any last thoughts on it? I think
that
pretty wraps it up. I mean, yeah. So again, it's up to you. Know what kind of reefer you are, what kind of hobbyist you are. If you want certain parameters, talk to people that are achieving those parameters and figure out how you can get your tank there. But for that, focus on stability. Get your tank nice and stable. Get everything where you want it. Make it happy. Then you can start moving those numbers.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, guys. We hope it helped, and we'll see you later.
Bye.